we're going to dive into a concern that I think a lot of parents might feel, but maybe hesitate to ask about. It's all about that tricky balance between trusting the professionals at school and that deep-down instinct to protect your child.
So let's start with this parent's own words, because they really get to the heart of the matter. They wrote, "Hello, my son is in 3rd grade and, on the recommendation of the class teacher, visits the school psychologist once a week as a good practice in helping to control emotions and process situations. He tells me that they play games and sometimes there are a few questions, as he puts it. The game was chess last time. The questions: does anyone annoy you? Who annoys you? Is it a practice for a school psychologist to ask such questions when there is no specific reason? Do I have reason to be concerned or question the trust that has been given? I believe that this is directing his attention to looking for conflict in his surroundings. I would like to clarify that there are no conflict situations or deep misunderstandings with anyone. He is an emotional, extroverted type."
Okay, first things first. It is so understandable to feel this way. That feeling of, wait a minute, that's completely normal. When it comes to our kids' emotional lives, of course we're protective. So let's just calmly and professionally unpack this together. So we're going to get right into the core of this parent's concern, which is all about the psychologist method. What's really going on in those sessions, and what's the reason behind asking questions like that? All right, let's tackle the big question head on. Is it standard practice for a school psychologist to ask a child, does anyone annoy you, especially when there isn't some big known conflict happening? And the short answer is yes, it absolutely can be.
Now, this kind of question isn't about stirring the pot or looking for trouble. It's actually the opposite. The whole point is to gently explore the child's social world. And, this is key, it's about helping them build an emotional vocabulary. It's about teaching a child to recognize a feeling, like annoyance, give it a name, and then start building the skills to deal with that frustration in a healthy way.
And that brings us right to this parent's biggest fear. Is this whole thing just teaching their child to look for conflict? This is a really crucial distinction. So let's look at the difference between a professional approach and, well, an unprofessional one. Okay, so you can see the difference right here, and it's huge. A professional isn't planting an idea. They're not saying, come on, someone has to be bothering you. Not at all. Instead, they're just opening a door with a question like, hey, does it ever happen that someone annoys you? This creates a totally safe space to talk about a very normal human feeling without actually creating a problem where there isn't one.
The most important clue here is how the child is experiencing all of this. The parent mentions that their son calls it a game and talks about it calmly. That right there, that's an incredibly positive sign. It tells us that the environment feels safe, not stressful, and that the child doesn't feel like they're being pushed or manipulated.
But listen, a parent's gut feeling is powerful. So while this particular situation sounds really positive, it's always smart to be empowered with information. So what are the actual red flags? What are the things that would make you say, okay, now I have a genuine reason to be concerned?
You should definitely be concerned if you see big changes in behavior. For instance, if your child suddenly becomes hostile or starts blaming other kids for everything, or always comes back from these sessions really upset or distressed. Secrecy or fear around the topic. Those are also major warning signs. But based on this parent's description, none of that is happening here.
So, if you're not seeing any of those big red flags, what's the next step? Well, it's not to just ignore your feelings. It's to channel that energy into building a partnership. And this is such a fundamental shift in how we think about this. Asking questions doesn't mean you're attacking someone's credibility or that you don't trust them. It just means you're an engaged, active partner in your child's well-being. And trust me, that's exactly what every good school professional wants.
And here is just a fantastic, non-confrontational way to open up that conversation. When you ask about goals and skills, you're not being accusatory. You're showing that you're a curious collaborator. You're saying, I respect your expertise, and I want to help support this work at home.
So when you do decide to have that conversation, here's the game plan. First, just lead with curiosity, not accusation. Second, frame it as a partnership. You both want what's best for your child. And third, remember to respect confidentiality. Ask about the general goals and the overall approach, not the nitty-gritty details of every single thing your child said.
When you step back and look at the big picture, what's being described here is really a form of preventative care. You could almost think of it as an emotional inoculation. It's about giving a child small, manageable ways to deal with tough feelings in a super safe space. This proactive work builds their emotional immune system, their resilience, so they have the tools they need before a big frustration turns into a big crisis.
And that leaves us with one last thought.
That parental instinct to protect is so powerful, and it's a good thing. The real challenge and the opportunity is to channel that protective energy, to reframe our fears into curiosity, and to turn our questions into bridges that build an even stronger network of support for our kids.